Hello friends. So today we are going to talk about the basic phenomena of light, that is reflection and refraction. So whenever we talk about light, we say that light is going to travel in a form of wave, or sometimes they are, or you can say in some phenomena they travel in a form of particle nature. So we consider that light has a dual nature, that is wave and particle. Depending upon the phenomena which it exhibits, accordingly it shows the proper nature, whether that phenomena is going to exhibit wave nature or particular phenomena is going to show that particle nature. So depending upon whether you're using a certain phenomena, so it will utilize the wave nature of light. And if I talk about another phenomena, it is going to utilize the particle nature of light. So whenever we talk about the reflection and the refraction of light, before that we need to remember that light is going to be always traveling in a certain straight direction. So light has a path that is along a rectilinear path, or you can say that it is a straight path. So whenever we say that ray of light, or we make use of the term ray of light, in that case we mean to say that light is traveling in a rectilinear propagation, or it has a straight line path, and that is nothing but called as a ray of light. So as you can see in the diagram, we have shown one ray of light, that is a light traveling in a straight path or a rectilinear propagation. In a similar manner, if I just consider many rays of light together, it is going to be called as a parallel beam of light. Next is, we can have two types of beam, either a divergent beam or a convergent beam. What do you mean by divergent? Is that suppose if I have a point source of light, and from that point source of light the light rays or the rays of light are originating in the outward direction and they're moving in all the different directions. So this type of beams are called as divergent beams. But if I have a single point and all the rays of light are converging at that one single point, those rays are considered to be the convergent rays. So either we can have convergent beam of light, or either we can have divergent beams of light. Next is, in nature we consider two types of object whenever we talk about light, that is luminous object and non-luminous object. When you say luminous object, it means that the object which has the ability to have their own light, or they have the ability to show their own light, they are going to be considered as luminous object. And whenever we talk about the objects which don't have their own light, or they don't exhibit their own light, they are called to be non-luminous. But obviously, like suppose if I consider the example of sun and moon, sun is the source of light, it has its own light, so it is going to be considered as luminous object. But whereas when we talk about moon, moon does not have its own light, so that means the light which we see on the moon is just due to the sun present behind the moon. So the light which we see for the moon is not of moon, it is due to the sun. So whenever we see, or whenever we talk about the object which don't have their own light, that type of objects are considered to be the non-luminous object. So either we can have luminous object or non-luminous object. But when we say non-luminous, we are aware that it is not going to have any light on its own. That doesn't mean that it cannot be seen. Those objects can also be seen if I illuminate that particular object with the help of light. So if we allow light rays to fall on non-luminous object, it is going to give, or it is going to illuminate the object, and we will be able to see that non-luminous object. So it is possible to see obviously the luminous object, and it is even possible to see non-luminous object with the help of illumination done on that particular object. And if that object is illuminated very much properly, that object is going to be seen with the help of naked eye, or whatever be the method. So either I can have a luminous and non-luminous object. Next is, When we talk about the phenomena, that is the basic phenomena, which is exhibiting the wave nature of light, these two basic phenomena are reflection and refraction. Now, when I say reflection and refraction in this case, this indicates that if I consider a surface, and this surface is nothing but a reflecting surface, and I've drawn a perpendicular to that particular surface, that is nothing but called as normal. So perpendicular drawn to that reflecting surface is considered to be normal. And if I consider a ray of light which is being incident on this particular surface, this ray is nothing but the incident ray. And as we are aware, the ray is being incident on the reflecting surface. So the incident wave is going to get reflected, and I'm going to get a reflected wave in the same medium. So whenever the wave is reflected in the same medium, that type of phenomena is called as reflection. Or you can say the bouncing back of light in the same medium is going to be called as reflection. So reflection is nothing but the bouncing of light in the same medium after it is getting or striked on a certain surface. If it is getting bounced in the same medium from which it is coming, that particular phenomena is called as reflection of light. So during the reflection, we require only one medium, and we require a surface which should be reflecting surface. Like for example, a polished surface can be considered as a reflecting surface, but there are many surfaces, like there are transparent surfaces. In that case, the incident ray of light will experience partial reflection and partial transmission. But when we consider a perfectly reflecting surface, all the incident rays are going to be perfectly reflected in the same medium. So whenever we talk about the light rays which are getting bounced back in the same medium after striking a surface, that phenomena is referred to as reflection of light. Now, as we can see that this is the reflecting surface we have considered. We have drawn a normal that is perpendicular to the reflecting surface. This ray of light is indicated as the incident ray, which is striking the surface at this point, and has the surface is a reflecting surface, it is going to bounce back the ray, that is incident ray, in the same medium, and the ray which we get on the other side is the reflected ray. Now in this case, obviously in this particular phenomena of reflection of light, we consider two angles over here. That is this one angle, that is angle between normal and incident ray, is called as angle of incidence. So if we want to define angle of incidence, it is the angle between normal and incident ray. But if we want to define angle of reflection, it is defined as the angle between normal and the reflected ray. So we obtain two angles over here, that is angle of incidence and angle of reflection. And whenever we study the laws of reflection, in that case, there are two laws of reflection. One is that the incident ray, normal, and reflected ray, they all are considered to lie in the same plane. So that is the first law of reflection. That is, the incident ray, normal, and reflected ray, they all should lie in the same plane. Second law is that angle of incidence should always be equal to angle of reflection. So if we say incident ray, normal, they all lie in same plane, that's the first law of reflection. And when we say the angle of incidence is equal to angle of reflection, this is the second law. So whenever we are talking about the phenomena of reflection, these two laws should be obeyed. That is about the three, incident ray, normal, and the reflected ray lying in the same plane. Second, the angle of incidence should be always equal to angle of reflection. So we have to remember the two laws of reflection. Next is when we talk about the types of reflection. The types of reflection depends upon the surface irregularity. Like I said, the ray of light strikes the surface, and from that surface it is getting bounced back. So the material or the nature of the surface matters. So if the surface is regular, or if the irregularity is very less, then it is going to be considered as smooth surface. Now what do I mean by smooth surface is that if the surface has irregularity very much smaller as compared to the wavelength of light, like if I consider lambda to be the wavelength of incident ray which is being incident on this particular surface, and if I want to check whether the surface is a smooth surface or a rough surface, we need to compare the surface irregularity with the wavelength of light which is being incident. So if the surface irregularity is very small as compared to wavelength of light, then that type of surface is considered to be smooth surface. But if the surface irregularity is very large, or you can say the irregularities present on the surface is very much higher as compared to the wavelength, it is going to be considered as rough surface. So either we can have a smooth surface and rough surface depending upon the irregularities present. So if the irregularity is small comparable to the wavelength, the surface is smooth, otherwise the surface is considered to be rough surface. Now when you say smooth surface, for different smooth surface, always the angle of incidence is always going to be equal to angle of reflection. That means whenever the reflection is occurring at smooth surface, in that case we can write that angle of incidence is always equal to angle of reflection. And whenever the reflection occurs at smooth surface and we say that angle of incidence is equal to angle of reflection, that type of reflection is considered to be the specular reflection. So what do I mean by specular reflection is that the reflection occurring at the smooth surface first of all. Second, whenever the reflection is occurring, if the angle of incidence is equal to angle of reflection, that type of reflections are considered to be the specular reflection. But if the ray of light is allowed to fall on a rough surface, in that case, as the irregularity is very large as compared to the wavelength of light, so in that case, the rays are going to get deviated or get reflected in many different directions. So if the reflection is occurring in many different directions, as you can see, this incident ray is moving in this direction, this incident ray gets reflected in some other direction. That means you're not getting a proper reflection in this case. And obviously, as you can see that in this second reflection, the angle of incidence is obviously not equal to angle of reflection, because the reflected rays are getting deviated in many different directions. So the angles are not same. So the reflections which occur at the rough surface is considered to be the diffuse reflection. So, depending on the irregularities of the surface compared to the wavelength, I can have smooth surface and rough surface. Smooth surface gives rise to specular reflection, and rough surface gives rise to diffuse reflection. And obviously, the reflection which we consider in our practical life is specular reflection, that is more suitable reflection. Now, whenever we talk about the reflections occurring on a plane mirror, because as we stand in front of the plane mirror, we get to see our image. That means the rays of light which are getting emitted from us, or you can say the rays of light which are falling on us, is going to get incident on the plane mirror, and the rays of light gets reflected back and they fall on the retina of eye, and image is formed at the retina. So that means we get to see our image which is getting obtained from the rays which are getting reflected from the plane mirror. So the image which is obtained with the help of plane mirror is nothing but due to the reflection of light occurring from the plane surface of the mirror. Now obviously when we look at the properties of image which we get with the help of plane mirror, the object size as well as image size is same. That is, whenever we are standing in front of the mirror, we get to see the same size as we are. So the image size matches with the object size. Secondly, the image has the property of lateral inversion. What do you mean by lateral inversion? Is that the left right inversion, that is, whatever is your left is going to appear right in the image, and whatever is your real right is going to appear as a left. So that is what is called as lateral inversion. Third property is the image is going to be upright. Fourth property is the image obtained is behind the mirror, so it is a virtual image. And last property, obviously the object distance is obviously equal to the image distance. So these are the properties of image. This is obtained due to the reflection of light from the plane surface of the mirror. So this is how the reflection of light looks like from the plane surface. Like if we have an object and there are two rays of light getting emitted from the object, and if they are allowed to fall on the surface of the plane mirror, the mirror is going to reflect the rays of light and they are going to come to the eye. But when we say image is obtained when the reflected rays are going to meet. But when you look at this rays, they are obviously not meeting. So if we want to form the image, we have to retrace it backward, this reflected rays, because these are behaving as incident rays and these are behaving as reflected rays. But as they are not meeting, or they are not meeting at a single point, so we are retracing it backward. And once we retrace this backward, we get to see that they are meeting at a certain point. So this reflected light is nothing but coming from the original object, and as the lights are not meeting over here, so they are not going to form the image. So to form the image, we are retracing it backward, and at this point A, the image is getting formed. So this is the image which we are able to see. So as we can see that the image is being formed behind the mirror, it is considered to be virtual image, whatever we are able to see. So in this manner, there is a formation of image with the help of reflection occurring from the plane mirror. Now this is like the previous diagram was for the object which is a point object. But if I have an extended object, like a object of a larger size, in that case the same method is going to be adopted. That is, these are the rays, incident rays, which are obtained from the extended objects. They are getting reflected in this direction, but as we are not able to allow them to meet, so we have to retrace it backward. And once we retrace it backwards, the image position is over here. So this is the image obtained of the extended object. So the method of obtaining both the image, that is due to the point object or the extended object, is going to be same. Just we need to retrace the reflected ray backward, that is behind the mirror, so that the image can form. And once the rays meet, they are going to lead to the formation of image, and we will be able to see that image. And lastly, that is more importantly, the image which is being formed behind the mirror, that is why it is called as virtual image. So this is what you talk about reflection. The next phenomena, that is refraction of light, this is obviously occurring when we talk about ray of light moving from one medium to another. So if the rays of light is moving from one medium to another, light has a property to bend whenever it is moving from one medium to another. So if I consider a ray of light traveling from one medium to another, the ray of light is going to change its direction, because as the medium changes, the direction of light is changing. So if medium is changing and the direction of light is changing, it is going to give us the phenomena that is refraction of light. So in this case, we have considered the first medium over here, and we can consider this box to have the second medium. And as we can see that we have drawn a normal, that is one normal and the second normal. So we have drawn two perpendiculars. that is at the top surface and the bottom surface. This is behaving as your incident ray, and as the incident ray is being incident at this point, the medium is changing from the first to the second. So as the medium changes, the ray of light changes direction. So if the direction of the rays of light changes, that is what we talk about the refraction of light. So this is going to behave as a refracted ray, and as the refracted ray again comes to this point, it is moving from again second medium to the first medium. So as we can see that the medium is again changing because it is ray of light is traveling from second to the first. So as the medium changes, again the ray of light is going to change its direction. So this is the ultimate ray of light I'm getting, which is called as emergent ray. So overall, if you look at the whole diagram, refraction is occurring at 2 points. That is, we can say it is occurring at point A and point B, because A and B is indicating the 2 points at which the directions of light is changing, because the medium is changing, and at these 2 points we say that there is an occurrence of refraction. Secondly, as you can see that angle between this normal and the incident ray will be taken as angle of incidence. In a similar manner, angle between normal and refracted ray will be taken as angle of refraction. So again I'm going to obtain two rays, or you can say two angles over here, that is angle of incidence, angle of refraction, and ultimately as you can see we are getting a ray which is getting emerged outward. That ray is called as emergent ray. So the angle between normal and the emergent ray is going to be called as angle of emergence. So overall we have three angles over here, that is angle of incidence, angle of refraction, and E is indicating angle of emergence. So whenever we are studying the concept of refraction, refraction can occur depending upon as soon as the medium changes, the light is going to change its direction first of all. Secondly, the different rays are going to give rise to different angles, that is incident rays giving me angle of incident, refracted ray is giving me angle of refraction, and emergent ray is giving me angle of emergence. Next is, whenever we talk about Snell's law, this is the law which we talk about in the concept of refraction. That is, whenever we take the ratios of sine of angle of incidence to the sine of angle of refraction, that ratio is going to give us a constant, and that constant is nothing but called as refractive index. So whenever we take the ratio of sine I to the sine R, we get a constant, and that constant is nothing but called as refractive index, which is denoted by n. This is nothing but called as Snell's law. Using that, we can solve a numerical over here. For example, as you can see that in this case we have two mediums, that is air and glass. This dotted line is indicating the normal, that is a perpendicular, and as you can see this blue one is indicating the incident ray, and this incident ray is making a certain angle with the normal, and that angle is your 45 degree. So if you remember, the angle made by the incident ray with the normal is written as angle of incidence. So for our case, the value of I is taken to be 45 degree. What is we are not aware of is, we are not aware of what is the angle of refraction, because this ray is nothing but the refracted ray. So we are not aware of what is the angle of refraction. So if we want to calculate angle of refraction, and if angle of incidence is given to us, secondly they have given us the refractive index of glass, that is the second medium, because refractive index of the first medium, that is air, is taken to be 1, and that is of glass it is written to be 1.52. So refractive index is 1.52. We are aware that the angle of incidence is 45 degree. So by solving this equation we can get the angle of refraction, because once I calculate the right hand side, I can take the sine inverse of this value and we are going to get a certain angle of refraction. So from here or you can say from this particular formula, we can calculate either of the parameters depending upon which two parameters are given to us. So, second method of calculating the refractive index is that, like whenever we talk about the rays of light, like the normally the bottom of water pool or the bottom of swimming pool appears to be little bit higher as compared to its actual depth. So because of the refraction of light, we don't get to see the real depth of the water or present in the swimming pool, or you don't get to see the real depth of the swimming pool because just of the concept refraction of light. So the depth which is visible to us is the apparent depth, but actually the depth of the swimming pool is something else which is considered to be the real depth. So why we are not able to see the real depth is all because of the phenomena called as refraction of light. That is, we get to see that the bottom of pool appears to be at a little bit higher height as compared to its actual depth. So this is the actual depth, but because of the refraction of light and the angle at which we are viewing, because of that we get to see that the bottom of the pool is little bit lifted up. Like if we talk about the actual depth, we can say that the rays of light are moving in this direction, that is this blue ones, but for my position of eye, if I retrace the rays of light backward, they are supposed to, or they are appearing to come from this particular point. So for my eye, or for this particular observer, this ray of light is supposed to come from this point. That means they will seem to have the bottom of pull and the little bit higher height as compared to the actual depth. So because of the refraction of light, we get to see apparent depth but not the real depth. So this is a formula applicable for calculating the refractive index with the help of real depth and the apparent depth. So, in the concept of real depth and apparent depth, the refractive index is given by the ratio of real depth to apparent depth. But if you want to calculate, or if you want to check the relation between refractive index and the speed, in that case, refractive index is taken to be the speed of light in air to the ratio of speed of light in medium. So if we take this ratio, we get a parameter that is called as refractive index. So there are different methods of calculating refractive index, obviously dependent upon which parameters are given to us. As I've discussed in the previous case, if I and R is given to us, if you want to calculate refractive index, make use of Snell's law. If real depth and apparent depth is given to us, this is given the method to calculate the refractive index. But if we talk about the speed of light in a medium or in a vacuum, in that case, this is the method of calculating the refractive index. So obviously, we have the different approach to the formula depending upon the parameters which is given to us. Next is, whenever we say refracted ray, the rays of light are changing their direction depending on the change in medium. But mediums are of two types. You can have a denser medium and a rarer medium. Obviously, whether the ray is bending towards the normal or away from the normal, that is entirely dependent on whether the ray of light is moving from rarer to denser or denser to rarer. So, depending upon the rays of light moving from one medium to another, we can get the rays bending towards the normal or away from the normal. As you can see in this example, the rays, that is incident ray, is supposed to come from water, and when I compare water with air, water is going to behave as a denser medium as compared to air. So when we consider air and water, water is considered to be more optically denser than air. So as you can see, the ray of light is coming from water to air, that is, it is traveling from denser to rarer medium. So that means the water is behaving as optically denser medium and air is behaving as rarer medium. So as the ray of light is moving from denser to rarer, you can see that refracted ray of light is moving, or you can say bending, away from the normal. So whenever the rays of light during refraction travels from denser to rarer medium, they show the tendency of bending away from the normal. So, if they are moving or bending away from the normal, that is entirely dependent on whether they are traveling from denser to rarer or rarer to denser. Next is, as you can see, again we have taken the same example, that is air and water. But again, water is considered to be more optically denser than air. But in this case, the incident ray is coming from air and then traveling into water. So as the medium is changing, the refraction is occurring. But in this case, the ray of light is bending towards the normal. So either I can have bending away from the normal or towards the normal. So we can say that if we are moving from rarer to denser medium, that is going to give me the refracted ray bending towards the normal. So whether the refracted ray moves from denser to rarer or rarer to denser, it is either going to bend the refracted ray away from the normal or towards the normal. So this is the concept of refraction. That is, whenever the medium changes, light has the tendency to change its direction, and whenever we have a reflecting polished surface, the light has the tendency to bounce back in the same medium. This type of concepts are related to the phenomena of light, that is exhibiting wave nature of light. So these phenomena are nothing but reflections and refractions. Thank you so much.